is what it looks like when inmates smoke something called K2. It causes crazy episodes of freaking out and screaming and all types of things, as you can see. Please keep that in mind as I tell you the backstory behind the clip that I'm going to show you now that involves our two main characters.
Coming to you live is my homeboy singing Up Down by Florida Georgia Line. Homeboy McGee.
Goddamn McGillicuddy. It's Friday after 5, got here just in time. Went ahead and went a line. Been here long, but the bobber's in the pond going up, down, up, down, up, down. Tonight we're gonna raise a whole lot more than Cain, 'cause there's money in the bank and some more Saturdays. So if they pass that fifth jack this way, I'll turn it up, down, up, down, up, down.
Now, there's a little more to the video clip that I just showed you, and I'm going to show you the rest of it in a little bit. But first, I want to tell you a little story about the two characters you saw in that clip. Actually, it's a pretty crazy story. And as harmless as this clip seems, and as good buddies as these two inmates seem to be, this clip was taken about half an hour before things changed. The first of these two inmates is named Chris. Now, Chris, he's bald, missing a few teeth, kind of short, but a little stocky. But the main thing that stands out about Chris is that when he takes his shirt off, you can't help but notice this very detailed, very professional, great quality tattoo piece on his back. And what he has is a very detailed, artsy, old-fashioned style hammer, a big hammer on the middle of his back. And right above it, going across his upper back, is the word Golden Hammer. And therefore, he went by the prison nickname Golden Hammer. Not exactly an easy nickname to forget, and once you hear it, you always remember it. Now, apparently the story behind Golden Hammer and why he even has that on him is because Golden Hammer was a roofer before prison. He loved to roof. That was his job, and he took pride in his job. He was good at his job. In fact, there's an award that is given out annually called the Golden Hammer Award. And it's given to, it's a very prestigious award, and it's given to outstanding roofers or contractors in this roofing business. And Golden Hammer had, at one time, 1 year, been the recipient of the Golden Hammer Award, and he was very proud of that. And hey, as he should be. And along with this pride in his work and in this award, you know, he held these morals about it. As with any guy who works with their hands and works outside, hard labor in the sun, you know, he believed in doing the job right, keeping your word, showing up on time, being dependable, a dependable worker, dependable guy, all of those things just really helped shape his character. And because of this, it's kind of the attitude and the morals and the character he brought with him into prison. And it's kind of how he conducted himself as an inmate. If you owe something, pay it back, pay it on time, pay exactly what you owe, and don't make the guy you owe come chasing you down, harassing you to hurry up and give him what you're supposed to give him. If you make a promise or you give your word to another inmate, keep it. You know, show a basic decent level of respect to your fellow men, to your fellow inmates that you have to share this space with. Things like that. So because of this, I mean, he wasn't the greatest guy to ever live inside of prison, but if you ask anybody around about Golden Hammer, they'll probably say, Golden Hammer? Not bad. Not a bad guy. He's all right. And in prison, when inquiring about another inmate, that's about all you need to hear to make your mind up. So you can imagine he didn't have many bumps in the roads or many problems with anyone. But he did have one thing that kind of tarnished all of these attributes that we've discussed. Golden Hammer started doing meth in prison. Now, he didn't try to use an excessive amount. If anything, you could say Golden Hammer really tried hard to maintain a status of being what you would call a functioning addict. So he didn't use a lot. He used just enough. He'll try to work out. He'd try to go out to rec and play basketball, handball, try to eat. He wouldn't try to stay up for days at a time like you may hear with a lot of cases of meth use. And so, as for this story, that's about all you really need to know about who the inmate Chris, aka Golden Hammer, was. But for everything Golden Hammer was, the other guy in that clip I showed you, his buddy, was the exact opposite. And his name was Country. Now, from watching the clip, again, shouldn't be too hard to figure out why they call him Country. Every day, he's always walking around the cell block singing the same country song. It's Friday after 5. Whatever comes next, I don't know. I just remember that first line because he'd always sing it. Must have been his favorite part. So everyone called him Country. Now, while Golden Hammer loved to do meth, Country loved to smoke K2 or spice, they call it, which is what you saw the guys in the first clip at the start of this video on. Country would always get himself into trouble and little situations with people because he would borrow K2, promise to pay it back, and he would always miss the day that he was supposed to pay it back, or he wouldn't have all the money, or he would have tons of excuses. But Country was so lovable. He was just this funny, funny guy, and that goes a long way in prison when you're able to just be around somebody and just the pure comedy of them being them passes your time. So it did buy him a lot of leeway, whereas any other inmate probably would have immediately had some physical altercations with the people that they owed and weren't paying. But Country could get away with a lot more, but still, he would drag it on way too far, and eventually he would always end up getting punched or slapped or something by these guys that he owed, as much as they didn't want to do it because, come on, hey, it's Country. They didn't want to do it, but he would literally force their hand with how many excuses and just how difficult he would be about keeping his promise and paying his debts. So, in a nutshell, there you have the two guys in the clip, two buddies in the cell block with two very different styles of doing prison time. And on that particular night that the video was recorded of them singing in the cell, Golden Hammer had started to notice right around the time of night that all the inmates were kind of laying it down, getting to sleep. It's time to call it a night. He wasn't tired. In fact, he started realizing maybe I've done a little bit too much today. And remember, that wasn't really Golden Hammer's style as far as meth use. He liked to do just enough to where he could enjoy it, but he didn't really have all the downsides that meth use can bring, such as loss of appetite, not really wanting to eat, not being able to sleep. He wanted to maintain, at least being able to put a little something in his stomach and get a few hours of shut-eye, just to have, a kind of normal schedule. Golden Hammer is not really comfortable with that, man. It looks like I'm going to be up all night. I'll probably be the only one up all night. What am I going to do? That's not usually what I do. And he's just kind of thinking, and up pops his buddy Country. Now, Country had that night gotten a little curious, and he wanted to try a little meth too, and he knew Golden Hammer had some. So he kind of convinces Golden Hammer, hey, listen, let me have a line or two. I'll do some. I'll stay up with you. You won't be alone. We'll pass the night together. We're buddies. We'll do this together, and it won't be so bad if we're both just hanging out all night. And at first, Golden Hammer didn't really want to. I don't know, but Country had his ways, and he talked him into it, and so he did. He gave Country a little bit to do. Country did it, and they started just passing the time, doing various things. And at one point, as you saw, they were even hanging out in the cell, despite the fact that Golden Hammer's cellmate did not do any drugs, and he was asleep. They planned on hanging out in the cell, being kind of quiet, and at one point, they got a little carried away, and they wanted to record a video of them singing a duet of this country song that Country loved so much. And after they did this, the cellmate of Goldenhammer actually woke up a little irritated that they were making so much noise and said, "Hey, take it outside. I'm sleeping." Now, you may be wondering, how do I know this? How do I even know what these two guys are like? How do I even know this story? How do I know what the cellmate said to Goldenhammer and Country in the privacy of their own cell? Well, that's because in this clip of Goldenhammer and Country, there's a third person in that video, and that person is me. So, yeah, I stood up and say, "Hey, fellas, do you mind not harmonizing a Florida Georgia Line song at 3 a.m. while I'm trying to sleep? Can you take it somewhere else?" And so they did. And that is where things started to go bad. As Goldenhammer and Country are trying to figure out, hey, what are we going to do now? Where are we going to go? How are we going to pass the rest of this night? Country has something else on his mind on top of that. See, Country, he had been in a lot of altercations recently. He had really been getting bad about borrowing things, promising to be able to pay it when the time comes and not being able to, and getting punched or slapped. And naturally, he was tired of that. And even more so, he didn't want to have to go through that situation with his friend, Goldenhammer. But he was worried he was going to find himself in that situation with Goldenhammer because one of the ways that he had convinced him to let him do some of his meth is that he promised he would pay him for it in a few days when he got some money. But Country knew he had just said that out of the pure anxiousness and want to do some and to try some. And he didn't really have any money coming. So he's worrying, and he gets an idea. So he tells Goldenhammer, "Hey, listen, how about for that stuff you just gave me, I told you I'd pay you back. How about I have a little K2 in my pocket? How about I give you some? And then we just call it even." Goldenhammer, at first, he didn't really want to do that. Goldenhammer didn't like K2. He didn't like that people did it. He didn't like that his buddy Country did it. He looked down on it. A lot of inmates look down on it, and for good reason. Look what it does to you. Just didn't understand why anybody would want to go through some episode like that from smoking K2. And in fact, he gave Country a bunch of crap for it, or you could call it tough love, every time he would smoke it. And he would have this episode like the guys you saw in the start of the video and just kind of wig out on it and go crazy for a couple minutes, and then he would come back to, and he'd come back around Goldenhammer, and he'd always just kind of give him a little crap for it, really just hoping that, hey, Country would snap out of it one day and, hey, come to your senses, quit using that stuff. Which is, that can be kind of a funny thing coming from a guy who prefers to use meth, but hey, that's prison. But on the other hand, Goldenhammer kind of knew, I think I know what's going on. I think Country, knowing Country, stupid me for even believing he had some money coming. I think Country doesn't really have any coming, and now he's panicking and he's trying to make it right. And, I don't want to get in a situation where I have to put my hands on Country because he lied to me and he didn't keep his word. And, it's my buddy, just to avoid all that. And because I have nothing better to do and I want to pass this night by doing something, screw it. Okay, Country, that's a deal. Let's go smoke some K2. And so they did. They went down to the bathroom in the common area of the cell block. They rolled one up, and Goldenhammer tried it for the first time. And he absolutely had an episode, a big episode. He wigged out big time. And by that next morning, it was the talk and the laugh of the entire cell block. But see, something about this episode that happened with Goldenhammer, it was different than usual. When you see other inmates who smoke K2, they freak out. They come back. They get back to normal and they're their old self. No big deal. They're ready to go again. But Goldenhammer, he didn't want to talk about it. He had shut down. He was quiet. He was acting weird. He was standoffish from everyone. He didn't even want to talk to me, his cellmate. Nobody could get it out of him. Hey, clearly something really bad happened for him mentally or psychologically during this episode. What was it, man? Hey, what happened? He didn't want to tell anyone. He just wouldn't open up. But finally, a little later that day, Country came into my cell where Golden Hammer was. He was at the window doing something, just kind of staying to himself, not really talking or being social. And Country came in with the absolute wrong energy to have around Golden Hammer at that time. He immediately walked in the cell, kind of laughed and giggled and went like that towards Golden Hammer, kind of signaling to me like, hey, let's mess with him and give him some crap for once. And he goes, ha, 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 hey, yeah, how's it feel? How's it feel? Kind of saying, how's it feel to be the one having an episode? And now you got to hear a little crap. And hey, maybe you shouldn't give me so much crap when I have episodes, because now you see, you're not trying to hear it, and neither am I. But he figured it was all in good fun. We're still buddies, but Golden Hammer didn't feel that way at all. Golden Hammer snapped his head around and turned toward Country and said, "What did you say?" And he walked fast and confidently right up to Country, looked him right in his face because Country was a little taller than him, and he swung. Boom! And he hit Country right in the jaw and knocked him flat on his back. And at this point, Country's on the floor with his arms spread, but he's still a little conscious. And Golden Hammer freaks out still, gets down on top of him and says, "You don't know what happened. You don't know what I saw. You don't know what I saw." Kept screaming that a few more times before it drew so much attention from the cell block and everyone kind of looking into the cell that he kind of snapped out of it and stopped and just walked off to be by himself. Now, Country eventually recovered. It was just a punch, and scurried away to go do whatever he does. And at this point, I'm like, I have to know. I need an answer. I need to talk to Golden Hammer. I mean, he's just done what no one in the cell block thought he would do because of who he did it to. This is his buddy. This is who he spent all his time with every day, all day, hanging out, having laughs, singing country songs, doing whatever. And the way he just flipped out and went crazy on him when he's not even high anymore, just for making that one joke about whatever happened, whatever he experienced in that bathroom that night. I have to know. I got to get some answers. So after giving Golden Hammer a little time to cool off, a little later that afternoon, I get him in the cell and I say, "Hey, listen, man, you have to talk to me. What did you see?" And he started to tell me. He said he was looking at the wall and all these geometric patterns started forming in the cracks and crevices of this cement wall in the bathroom. And they started saying lizard people were coming out of the wall and saying things to him. And he wouldn't tell me what they said. He said he couldn't tell me what they told him. But at this point, I'm like, this guy's clearly crazy, or, had a crazy moment on just this terrible mix and concoction of drugs he was doing. And he went on to tell me ever since then, all day, that whole next day, ever since then, man, everywhere he went, he said the Illuminati was after him now. The Illuminati is getting me. The Illuminati is going to get me. He was walking back from the cafeteria earlier, from across the prison yard down the sidewalk, and just started muttering and mumbling about how there was someone there on the rec field, but it was empty, but they were hiding behind a wall. And the next thing you know, a handball, a little small, blue handball, if you know what that is, a handball rolled across my path, and I looked, but no one was there, and just muttering this kind of incoherent stuff, or just kind of broken, incomplete sentences and descriptions of what he had been experiencing, and just kept chalking it all up to the Illuminati was after him. I figured, maybe another day or two, a little more rest, he would just kind of come back to normal slowly but surely, and he would put it all behind him. Hey, maybe he'd even quit the drugs. But whatever was going on with him and whatever he was seeing or felt was happening or was after him, it only got worse as the day went on. And by that next morning, Golden Hammer had left. He was gone. He had told the police he had to get out of there. They took him out of there, and I don't know where they placed him. I don't know where he went after that. I don't know what happened to him for the rest of his prison sentence after that point. I truly don't. Nevertheless, that's the story behind that seemingly harmless, innocent video clip that I showed you. Now, as for the last I heard of Golden Hammer. Yes, I did get an update. It wasn't about what happened to him in his prison time, but when I got out of prison, which was about a year and a half ago, when I was on Facebook, I got a random friend request one day. The first name Chris, the last name, what his last name was, but he had a middle name, his nickname, Golden Hammer. And there can only be one Golden Hammer as far as I'm concerned. And so I go to his profile, and yes, it was him. And I noticed that he had a video clip posted to his Facebook story, kind of showing what he was doing in that moment on that day. So I clicked it. And, I'm happy to say that what I saw gave me some peace about this whole Golden Hammer fiasco. It was a simple clip, maybe 10 seconds long. No talking. He wasn't saying anything. It was just him. The only place he ever wanted to be. Outside, a free man, on top of a roof, hammer in hand, working. I was glad to see it.